I wish that I could swim and sleep like a shark does. I'd fall to the bottom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Comprehensible Input podcast, where we have interesting conversations with interesting people about interesting topics in English that we can all understand. Today, we're talking about TV and film, and our very special guest is Zaira. Zaira, hello.
Hello.
First of all, can you tell us something about yourself?
Oh my God, where do I start? My name is Zaira. I was born in Russia. I had lived there for the first 30 years of my life, and then I moved to Wales, the sunny Wales that Glyn is very familiar with. And I'm a journalist. Well, not anymore. I used to be. But now I'm an audiovisual translator. And I translate TV shows and films for Netflix. Am I allowed to say that? I think I am.
I hope so. I remember we spoke before when I was teaching a class and you came in as one of the guest speakers and you mentioned some of the names that you'd interviewed in your job as a journalist. And I remember some people being blown away by some of those like huge names in Hollywood that you've casually like just spoken to. Who are some of these people and how did you get into this profession?
Well, how I got into journalism was no, I just studied as a journalist. I always liked that idea. I really hated writing all my life, but I loved having written, if that makes sense. So I loved looking at the text and enjoying it. But how did I get into interviewing? Well, I just liked film. I liked music pretty much all my life. And I started working as a journalist when I was really young, when I was in my second year of uni, really. And I thought I would be covering all the themes that were interesting to me, that I was interested in, and they were music and film. And I worked for a variety of publications for quite a long time in Russia. And then I moved to the UK in 2012, and that opened a whole lot of opportunities because when you're in the UK, you have access to London events, to all sorts of press junkets where you can go and interview people that are promoting their newest releases, which I had been doing for, I don't know, almost 8 years. And yes, if you want me to name names, I don't know. That was a variety of them, starting from, I don't know, Jude Law, Brad Pitt, Daniel Radcliffe. They were the nicest ones. And honestly, there were so many. I was literally the first person to interview Henry Cavill when he was cast as Superman, when obviously nobody knew him. Well, I mean, maybe his parents knew him, but otherwise, he was just a nobody. So I was the first to walk into the room and say, "Hi, Henry. I don't know who you are. Let's talk." So that was his first interview. Yeah, and a lot of people from Hollywood and British film industry. Yeah, well, went right through me in a good way. But
Uh,
yeah,
Obviously,
but I'm
it's
not. Sorry. Continue,
no,
please.
sorry. Obviously, it sounds, like a wonderful thing, but have you ever had any embarrassing moments when interviewing any of these people? Have you ever said something and then thought like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that or got someone's name wrong or anything like that?
That happens literally every time. Every time I say something, it's a weird thing because after the interview, you think it went well. It probably did, but then after you finish talking, you start replaying all of that in your head, And then you think, oh, why did I say that stupid thing? I should have worded it differently. I should have just avoided that question altogether. But as for embarrassing, well, I don't know. I literally walked into Jennifer Lawrence once. Does that count? I It wasn't right. It wasn't during the interview. She was just standing in the hallway, and I was walking by, and I nearly knocked her over. And she looked at me like, "Oh, sorry," like she was to blame, which she wasn't. I just literally walked into her. And then in the interview, after that, it turned out she doesn't shake hands with people. It was well before the pandemic or anything like that. So I think she just looked at me and she just realized, oh, she's the one who walked over me in the hallway, so I'm not going to shake her hand. Yeah, but that's not the case. No, she didn't shake hands at all with anyone. So she was like germaphobe before it was it was a mainstream thing.
Before it was cool.
Yeah,
Um,
before it was cool.
we have this expression in English, right, to be starstruck. And that means when you see someone that's super famous, someone you've seen on the TV a lot, and then you come face to face with them and you almost can't believe that you're there speaking to them, and you get like overwhelmed with nerves. Did you ever have that when you were starting out? Do you remember like one of your first or earliest experiences where you came face to face with a global superstar and suddenly thought like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
You know, it's a weird thing. It never happens when you show up for an interview with that mindset that you're a professional. You have to act as a professional, and because of that, I never. Well, maybe a few times, but I did not tend to take selfies or any pictures with the stars I interviewed because that's kind of frowned upon. And the funniest thing is that when you meet them outside of your circle, outside of the place where you're supposed to meet them, that's when you get starstruck. Because I remember seeing Idris Elba on the street outside the hotel in London, and I walked out of that hotel. I was staying there. That's where a studio put me. They used to put me in like nice 5-star hotels. Thank you very much. But yeah, I walk out of my hotel, and Idris Elba is just standing there smoking. And I stood like, I don't know if you've seen the show The Office, the American Office. There was a moment where Idris Elba shows up and everyone in the office is just swooning over him. So that was me right there in the street, right by the Mayfair Hotel. And he probably noticed my confusion, let's put it that way. And he said, "Hi, how are you doing?" Oh my God. I was just I don't know how I scraped myself off that pavement, but I had to just get up and go interview Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy at that moment. So I thought, sorry, Idris, not today. Yeah, that was one of the most memorable moments. And also, I remember walking in a pub in Edinburgh and bumping into Dylan Moran, who's one of my favorite comedians. And that was the moment when I was watching the Black Books for, I don't know, the fifth time. And that was a serious life imitating art moment because I just finished watching it, one of the episodes, and I walk into a pub and there's Dylan Moran. Obviously, I didn't say anything because it was shocking. But then he was saying goodbye to his friends, and I came up to their friends and to the friends and asked, "Was that really Dylan Morano? Am I imagining things?" And they're saying, "Yeah, it was him." I'm like, "Oh my God, why didn't I say anything? I'm so stupid." You know, those kind of things you don't expect to happen. So you're absolutely blank at that moment. And yeah, it happens even to me, even though I had met so many famous people in my life, I still get starstruck.
All right. Well, since you've worked as a film and music journalist, and you've met so many global superstars, I guess it means I can ask you absolutely anything about films, and you'll have all of the right
Mm.
answers. So we'll start with probably the most difficult and impossible question to answer. What makes a good film?
Oh my God, really? I'd have known that I'd be a filmmaker, not a film journalist. Actually, no, journalists are supposed to know whether a film is good or bad. Well, there are a lot of components to a good film, as you probably know. Uh, and I'm not talking just about the obvious ones, such as the script. Obviously, there needs to be something that you based your film on, which is a good script foundation. And then you have to work through the whole difficulty of creating production design. You have to put your film in that world that is memorable and well, let's call it world making, right? It is still that that word that could be used in filmmaking as well. Also, acting and directing. I mean, they are very intertwined in a lot of ways because the director's um, responsibility is not just to get everyone working on the film set. He has to get the right acting going, and if the actors do not perform, this is solely director's fault. If they don't get the emotions delivered in the way they need to, yeah, we put it all on director. And because of that, I think pretty much anyone could be a good actor. You know, if the right director tells them what to do, anyone, even a log, could be a good actor. That's why all the acting awards are really, in my opinion, are the awards that are meant for directors because they did a great job directing their actor. What else makes a good film? It needs to hit a nerve. It needs to hit that. It could be an emotional nerve. It could be very zeitgeist. It could be I don't know. Oh my God, you got me thinking now. I don't usually think so early in the morning, or ever really, but yeah, a good film needs to have a good promotion as well. We
Mm.
cannot underestimate it because if your film could be the best film in the world, but if nobody sees it, there's no point of it, really. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'll put you out of your misery. I won't let you suffer anymore. Definitely,
Please.
there's a lot more that seems to go into a film than like writing a novel, for example, right? Where you can have one person with their perfect idea writing their novel and it comes out okay. They don't need to worry about like the people operating the camera or the makeup artists or the costume designers. So making a film in that sense seems to be, a much greater task. One criticism we get for movies nowadays is that, broadly speaking, they are terrible. They are predictable. They are repetitive. Why? And is it, firstly, do you think it's true that movies today are objectively worse in general than
Mhm.
movies in, say, the 1980s? And if so, why has the movie industry gone that way? Why is it so predictable now?
Well, it is predictable because people tend to utilize the same ideas, well, recycle them over and over, and going with an original idea is risky, and nobody wants to put all that money into a film that is very likely to flop. Um, that is understandable, but that's also a bit boring. Yeah, I agree with you on that. We tend to go to the cinema these days only to see something really big and eye-popping, like a blockbuster that is really worth seeing on the big screen. Other than that, I personally prefer to watch everything at home. I've got a 65-inch telly, and I'm totally fine with that. Um, as for comparing films of today with the classics. Is that what you were trying to do just now? Um, I don't think they stand the comparison. Well, yes, of course there were better films in terms of ideas back then, but technologically, films these days are more advanced in every possible way. I mean, you can't even compare them visually. People back then, say in the 60s, they were more inventive in every way, in all their approaches. They were more inventive in creating good films visually as well. But today, it's, well, first of all, it's easier. Second of all, it's just it just doesn't make sense to create something that is not visually appealing. As I said, people would rather watch their films at home unless it's something that is worth watching in IMAX and having your eyes pop. Did I
Mhm.
answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I want to ask you whether, like, being a journalist affects your enjoyment of movies, right? I'm someone that has like a bit of education in English literature, and so part of those studies mean analyzing stories, understanding like character arcs, exposition, and things like this, and finding like the rising action and the climax. And so when you've done that type of analysis and then you watch a movie, and probably even without that education, nowadays, I don't think you need that education to see where a movie's going, to know if it's a rom-com and you see a guy accidentally walks in on a woman changing and the woman's really angry, you know that they're going to end up together at the end. As someone that's studied films intensely, do you feel like that makes films more enjoyable for you, or does it make them less enjoyable because you have this like second brain that's always doing this analysis?
I'd say less enjoyable because you know all the tropes. Then you know the first, yeah, as you said, the first time you see someone on the screen, you know where they're going to end up, and it kind of takes the suspense out of it. But when someone manages to surprise you, oh, that is so satisfying. I love that. Yeah, when something happens that you do not expect. Yeah. I
And
decided to
is
be
there
short in my answers from now on. Sorry.
no, no, no. Is there any hope that movies might get better in the future, that we might see a bit more risk taking and we might see a bit more original content? Or can you think of how perhaps new technologies in the future might change things? I'm really worried that we'll go down the AI route because I
Mm.
think that will make it more predictable, not less. But what are your thoughts?
I really hope would be avoiding AI as much as we can when it comes to creativity. I mean, it could be helpful, but not in generating ideas or even generating visuals. That is just, yeah, that is just a lazy way, and it's so obvious that it's AI, right? I mean, it might be getting better in the future. It probably will be getting in the future. So Skynet is coming for us. But yeah, I don't know. Uh, Sorry, what was the question?
Just about how movies might change in the future. Like, I know a
Okay.
lot of people who are into video games are hoping or maybe even expecting that we might see a merger of this, like the
Hmm.
video game, this experience, and rather than passively watching a movie, that we might get to a stage somewhere in the future through like virtual reality or some
Yeah.
other thing where we can participate in movies. Do you ever see that happening?
Well, to be honest with you, even those films that were already what do you call interactive, right? On Netflix, there were a few films, including one of the Black Mirror episodes.
Yeah,
Where,
Bandersnatch, I think. Right?
yes, exactly. They got rid of them. They just took them off their service. I don't know why. They were disrupting the viewer's experience in some way. I don't know, but you'd think they would be moving more in that direction, but they just completely stopped in their tracks and no, we're not going to do it. And yeah, maybe there will be experiments in some sort. I don't know, of some sort. I don't know. I don't know where it would lead. it is possible that there will be some mergers with virtual reality, but I don't think it's actually going to be a mainstream direction where film industry will be going. There will still be cinemas. There will still be cinemas for people to go to as a social experience. They would want to be experiencing that. And the cinemas, as advanced as they are these days, they probably won't be introducing much of virtual reality. I don't think so. And it will still be expensive for another, I don't know, 20 years. And then we'll talk, then we'll have another podcast and we'll discuss it in 20 years.
Well, let's move on a little bit to TV then. So what's the difference between, or what are some different challenges between making a good film and making a good TV series?
Well, not much these days. I'd say when TV was still, I can't swear, no? When TV was still not good enough, the difference was quite noticeable because there were completely different approaches to creating TV content rather than creative film content. Because in TV you have that continuous flow, and the ways of writing those episodes, well, episodic writing as it's called, completely different to film writing. And you have to have your arcs happening within one episode, and there was a team of writers working on a TV show, whereas on a film there would be, I don't know, one or two, and then one or two would be rewriting it. That was pretty much it. The difference in creating it now, I don't think it's that huge, because now TV shows are so different. They are basically classed as long films. So you get one writer, one or two, and they could work on the whole show. And the same as, well, most of the time a show would employ the same director to do the whole season, say. Not every time that happens, but it works better that way when one director works in the whole season. And again, the production value of TV shows these days is through the roof, especially if they're like expensive ones from HBO on Netflix, or what else is there? I don't know. Hulu sometimes does a good one. Yeah. The production value, they spend a lot of money on those TV shows these days. Say if an episode of a TV show would cost you up to $1 million to create, I mean, you could do a good, I don't know, good film for 10 million, really. I mean, it wouldn't be a blockbuster, but it would be a reasonable indie film that would win some awards probably, but people choose to go for this show route to kind of make it more, I don't know, elaborate, to give more development to their characters, which I welcome, honestly.
You mentioned some of those streaming platforms like Netflix and HBO. I think there's also Apple TV and Amazon Prime,
Oh yes,
Hulu,
forgot
and so
about
on. One thing I heard, and I don't know if it's true, but the writers kind of have to write differently nowadays because they understand that the majority of the audience is going to be on their phone and they're not going to be paying attention. And so they can't expect such a level of detailed attention from the viewers. So they have to make the stories kind of easier to understand without too much intrigue and things like this. Do you think that is true? Do you think, to use a maybe slightly more offensive term or a ruder term, dumbing down, do you think TV shows on Netflix and HBO are kind of stupider than they were perhaps 20 years ago?
I don't think so. Well, it depends on the show. If it's some sort of a silly sitcom, it probably would be the case with it. But if one of the tent poles, as they call it, a show that would support the whole a whole season, a whole season of all the shows, they need to be really intricate and as complex as they can be. And that means obviously people are meant to be watching them on bigger screens rather than their phones. And that also shows because of how much visual detail they go into creating those shows, they obviously are not meant to be watched on your phone screens. You need to be watching them on big tellies. And if you're watching them on a telly or even your laptop, you have to be watching that. You can't mess about and do something else. You can't just watch it on the background or half watch it. Just watch it. You're only spending, I don't know, 45 minutes per episode. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to binge watch it. It can be one episode per day while eating your dinner. I think that's the only thing I can be doing while I'm watching something. Eating. That's normal, right? It's not just me. Yeah, but you need to pay attention. I think a lot of the shows these days, they are made that way that you have to be watching them. And when I mentioned sitcoms, I didn't mean sitcoms like, I don't know, comedies by Armando Iannucci, who makes, I don't know, The Thick of It and Veep. You have to be watching them, and you have to be listening to them, preferably with subtitles, otherwise you will not understand anything. But they are really good. Yeah, by the way, highly recommend it to people are learning English. They are really, really beneficial for English studies. They were for
Can
me,
you
at
repeat
least.
the names of those titles? Armando Iannucci, you said Veep and...
And The Thick of It. The Thick of It is the UK version of Veep, really. It's set in the political kind of environment, and oh my God, the language those people use. That is so fun.
Um, I mentioned before this criticism we have of films today. That criticism doesn't seem to extend to TV series so much, right? Just in recent times,
Yeah.
we had the huge thing of like Game of Thrones, and we had like The Mandalorian and Westworld, which I loved, season 1 and season 2 at least. Succession, which I thought was an incredible TV show for its dialogue, and and Breaking Bad, of course, incredible series too. Because of this, we have heard this term that like we're in the golden age of TV. Do you think the last 10, 20 years has been the golden age of TV?
The last what? Sorry, you got broken up there.
The last 10 or 20 years,
Okay.
do you think this has been the golden
Oh,
age of TV?
oh, absolutely. Well, I'd say it started with The Sopranos, maybe, and more appealed to the wider audience it gained with Lost, which did not stand the trial of time, really. Not with that ending, at least. But yeah, starting with The Sopranos and The Wire, I really love The Wire as well, which was the beginning of 2000s. That's when it kicked off. And yeah, I think it's still going. Of course, people are sort of abusing this medium more these days, turning out some really mediocre content. But as I said, there are still those tentpoles, there are still those shows that are really worth watching, and people are talking about them, and they are discussed all over social media. And if you're not careful, you'll get a lot of spoilers. These are the kind of shows that are really holding up the the bar that was set by in the early 2000s, and that is good.
Do you
That's a
think
good
we're
thing.
Do you think we're just coming out of that era now? Like some of the things you mentioned, like Lost was quite a while ago now, The Sopranos was quite a while ago, even Game of Thrones was quite a while ago. I know we have like the new Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, which I think is okay. I still haven't forgiven them. But do you think we are coming out of that golden age, or do you think we're still in there? Are people still, like, can you point to any like absolutely incredible TV series that are ongoing at the moment?
Oh, that's really hard. Well, there are some shows that are still into their season 1 or 2 that are really good, but you don't know where they will end up, so it's really hard to tell. Don't put me on the spot like that. I don't know really if there are a lot of shows that I enjoy watching, but I don't know if they are as good as maybe Breaking Bad was or Game of Thrones. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna go and watch season 2 of Wednesday now. I quite enjoyed season 1, so
I
so let's hope it holds. What, sorry?
I watched 1 or 2 episodes of Wednesday, and I felt like, as a 42-year-old man, it's not for me.
As a 43-year-old woman, I think I think it's very much for me. But yeah, I just like Tim Burton. I'm just a sucker for everything he does, and it's stuck. I swear, what? No, I think it is fine. Fine for
Oh,
you too, isn't it?
it's okay. It's okay. I'm
Yeah.
kind of looking forward, more out of curiosity, to the next season of The Three Body Problem, because
Oh yeah.
I read this trilogy before even knowing that there was a TV series of it, and then somebody mentioned, "Oh yeah, there's a Chinese version and there's a Netflix version," and I
Cool.
watched that Netflix version and thought, like, one of those things where you've read the book first, and because you like the book, you're always going to hate the movie or the series. Have you watched this, and are you looking forward to this next season?
I've watched the first season and I really enjoyed it because I like sci-fi and everything that's got to do with space and aliens, and I like it even more when it's not revealed straight away that it's got to do with space and aliens. But I haven't read the book. I probably should because it sounds right up my alley. But I am really looking forward to season 2. I think, yeah, is season 1 covering the whole trilogy, or was it just the first book?
Well, season 1 covers, as I remember, it covers the first book and part of the second, but the books are, trust me when I say the books are very different to the show.
Okay.
I won't spoil it, but all I'll say about the books is you start book 2, and all
Mhm.
of the characters are different to book 1. The 1 or 2 people come back, and you think, well, what am I? This isn't a continuation of what I've just read, but it works, and it's the same with book 2 to 3, that we get like new protagonists. I won't spoil anything. I will say that it's probably the best sci-fi I've read. It's incredible.
Ooh, sold. Okay, bye. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go and read it now.
It was
Done
so
with it.
good, in fact, that after the third one came out, another writer was so in love with it that within, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, that writer wrote the fourth version of it. I think it's like it's kind of fan fiction, but it's like officially approved fan fiction for the fourth
Yeah.
part. Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful bit of sci-fi. But anyway, we won't go too deep into that. I want to throw a bunch of questions at you now in something that I call the quickfire round. So I'm going to throw very short questions at you. You can answer in short form, but feel free to extend on anything if you want to. I'm sure some of the questions will be head scratchers, and the first one is horrible. Your top 3 movies of all time.
Oh, don't do that to me.
Sorry.
Could they be
Or
trilogies?
just three movies that you like. Yeah, 3 trilogies is okay. Or a
Okay,
trilogy.
Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 1, and Back to the Future 3. Does that count?
That counts as 1.
Oh my god. The Lord of the Rings, all 3 of them as 1. Oh my god. My tastes are so mainstream. Okay, I'll go into something less obvious. Mm, God, the struggle is real. Oh,
You're going to
let me
say
think.
Harry
Let me
Potter,
think.
aren't you?
No, no, I really don't like Harry Potter films. I have that's a whole other conversation for another 34 minutes.
Mhm.
Hmm. Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it. Sorry. Um, your favorite animated series or cartoon?
Rick and Morty? Does that count?
Close. The correct answer was BoJack Horseman, but that's okay. This next one also has a very correct answer, but I'm not sure if you've heard of it. The worst movie you've ever watched. Oh, maybe you haven't watched the movie that I'm thinking of. The worst movie you've ever watched.
Um, it's actually classed as the worst movie ever by a lot of people. So that would be, again, another mainstream answer from me, but it's The Room. Do you know The Room?
Of
Of
course, of
course,
course.
Tommy Wiseau. I mean,
Oh,
it's
hi,
as
Mark.
yeah. Oh, hi, doggy.
I did not.
Oh, what a story, Mark. Um, so that film is actually the worst, well, classed as the worst film ever made. So it's probably a bit, I'm cheating calling it the worst film. It's not really the worst. It's like, it's got this cult following, so you can't call it the worst film ever. Uh, as for me, I don't know. I try to, a bad experience, I just try to erase it off my head. So I don't keep that. I don't keep good experiences either as it turned out, but yeah.
There is one worse, and it's called Manos and the Hands of Fate. And probably you've never heard of it, but there
No.
was a US TV show before called Mystery Science Theater 3000, and the premise of this show was great. It was like a guy and his two robots would sit in front of a terrible movie and then make like sarcastic comments about the movie, and they just showed the whole movie. And this Manos and the Hands of Fate appeared in there as like the punishment for these three guys. So the whole premise was people would watch bad movies and make fun of the movies, but even this movie, Manos and the Hands of Fate, that was a step too far even for those guys. You have to check it out.
That sounds awesome, to be honest. And it sounds like a lot of reaction videos on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Next one. Again, there's a correct answer here. Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
Oh, how dare you! Oh, I give up. I give up. Call with you. I think Better Call Saul.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I like its slow pace, and I like that it's a
Mhm.
slow burner, that it just takes you in. Yeah. Yeah, Better Call Saul.
I use it as a filter for friends, actually. So if I meet people and they say, I just couldn't get into Better Call Saul, it was too
Oh,
slow.
shut up.
Yeah, it's usually like, come on, these guys, they wrote Breaking Bad and they deserve your trust to
Exactly.
know that the investment that you put into that first season, the second season, which might be a little bit slow, the payoff that you're going to get at the end is going to be so worth it.
Yeah. And slow is not a bad thing, really.
Hmm. Yeah, I quite like Tarkovsky, so slow suits me just fine. Um,
Yeah.
a TV series either that you're currently watching, or apart from Wednesday, or that you've recently finished watching.
Oh my God. Sandman, season 2. But I worked on it, so it doesn't count, does it? Watching. Hmm. Can I quickly have a look at my recently watched on my phone? It's such a weird thing because basically barely anything stays with you these days. You just watched it and you moved on to the next one. We watched
Hmm.
a TV show called bloody hell, I don't even remember what it's called, with John Hamm on Apple TV. Please remind me when he loses all his money and he goes on to rob his neighbors and steal his watches.
I'm terribly
Some
sorry.
Something to do with neighbors. You and your neighbors. I don't know, something like that. It was quite good, but not good enough. What else did I watch? I watched so much. I don't even remember anymore. Um,
Uh, I'll move to the next one. The best non-English language movie.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, there's a non-English language show I recently watched. I try to avoid them because I know how badly they are translated. I know that firsthand because I work in those translations. Not from rushing into English, but not from whatever language it is into English, but from that English into Russian, and that's a pain because the English translation is so bad. I have to go into the original to check with the original, which I don't speak. I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak Korean. I don't speak those languages, but I have to Google translate them to make sure that the English translation is good. So I really enjoyed the show called the Astronaut. It's an Argentinian kind of dystopian film. It's on Netflix. If you want, you can check it out. It was really good. It's like about alien invasion, but set in Buenos Aires, and it goes like full into dystopian mode where people need to survive during that invasion, which I really liked. A film. What films did I recently watch that were not English audio? Well, apart from those I worked on and hated, yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of any. Yeah,
It's nice
moving
to
on.
see the aliens. It's nice to see the aliens invading Argentina instead of the US, like they do in every movie I've seen.
Exactly. I think it's based. No, I think it is based on a cult Argentinian like comic book. Like, that it's got a cult following, and it is really famous in that part of the world. And yeah, and that's why it's set in Buenos Aires because of that. So yeah, you should check it out. Highly recommend it.
What was the name of it again? The
The
astronaut?
the Eternaut. Eter-
Eternaut.
Eternaut. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Um,
yeah.
you mentioned some problems with translation before. I want to ask you the most unusual translation of a movie title.
Title into Russian or
Uh, yeah, I
yeah,
guess if you've worked with Russian English, where something
yeah,
in English it's been translated, or because I know they don't, they don't literally translate things like tenet
yeah,
was translated as davod because they have that like palindrome thing, right, where it reads
yeah,
the same
yeah, yeah,
forward and
yeah, of
back.
course.
But can you think of any unusual translations where you looked at it and thought that's just so odd?
Yeah, we used to mock those translations a lot when it was when the Russian film industry was still a thing. We used to mock the way they localize the translations because it's so out of the blue. You do not, they have nothing to do with the original naming. And sometimes it's understandable because the original naming can be way too complicated and all contain a pun that needs to be somehow, adapted. But sometimes they just, uh, completely, their thinking is like, doesn't make any sense. Sometimes they think that a positive message in the name of the movie would be better than the negative that was in the original. For example, this film with Robert Redford, um, literally just Robert Redford. It's called All Is Lost. Do you know that film where he was like on a boat, lost somewhere in the ocean, and waiting to be saved? Really. So the film is called All Is Lost because, yeah, all is lost. You there? And in Russian, it was called "Не угаснет надежда," which is like the hope is still there. Basically, the hope will
Mm.
shine. There is no hope. It says all is lost. What hope are you talking about? So they flipped it from minus to plus, and they thought it would be more appealing to the audience. I don't think that worked, but sure. Also, there's a funny film, funny name called It was back in 2000s. What is it called? Dan in Real Life in original, the Steve Carell comedy. In Russian, it was called "Влюбиться в невесту брата," which is like the worst spoiler. This is what the film is basically.
Falling in
someone,
love with your brother's
yeah,
fiance?
yes, that's what it's called. That's what happens in the film.
No.
Why would you want to call it that way? That's so everyone looks at that title and knows what happens in the film. I
What
don't
did they call the
understand.
Sixth Sense? Like Bruce Willis is a ghost?
That would be. I would not be surprised if they did. No, it was called Trzystoje Чувства.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
boring.
Die Hard. Die Hard was translated as like tough nut or something. I thought that's
Yeah,
pretty cool. That's
it was
nice.
Krepki Oрешek. Yeah, tough nut. Well, yeah. Krepki Oрешek is not just that. It's also like someone who's like really a tough one. Really, it doesn't
A
have to
tough
be
nut.
nut. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, but we could use that in English. Like he's a tough
yeah,
nut or she's a tough nut. Yeah. Unbreakable character, right?
yeah. That's kind of thing.
Mhm.
I didn't know you could call it tough nut in English as well. But that
Yeah.
makes it funny because it's like a direct translation from that English idiom that is not the same as the actual translation of the. Oh my god, that is so confusing.
Tough
Yeah.
nutter. I'm gonna jump to the last one, I think, which I'm sure you're gonna hate. The actress who would play you in a movie of your life. Or actor, if you want to have an actor. No
Yeah.
limitations.
Can I say Idris Elba? Because I think he owes me now. He bloody owes me now. As actress. Mm. I'd like for it to be. Oh. Oh my god. I don't know. That doesn't mean I look anything like her or Jennifer Connelly. I like her to play me. But like she needs to gain about 30 kilos for that. Another acting challenge, she could probably get an Oscar for that. That's what happens, doesn't it? Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been fascinating to get some of your insights. Always nice to speak to someone that knows absolutely everything about movies and has all of
Absolutely
the
nothing.
correct answers, except Rick and Morty versus BoJack Horseman. That's a pity. There were a few questions I didn't get around to asking, but that's absolutely okay. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Zaira, for joining us. Is there any place? Do you have any social media presence? Is there any place where do you publish anything? Do you want followers?
Not really. I'm sorry, my Facebook and my Instagram are just friends only. Not really. I don't publish anything anymore because I work for Netflix and they don't allow to publish things because of NDA. But other than that, thank you. Thanks for offering.
All right. Thank you very much, Zaira.
Thank you.
I wish it